My grandmother texted me that she can hear the terrorist inside their house. She's a 72-year-old woman. She's sick. They got her on a motorcycle, and she had to hold the terrorist that just murdered her husband. They were together for over 50 years.
Another cruel and heartbreaking account, this time of an elderly woman kidnapped from her home by Hamas. Her family still waiting to hear if she's alive. Her granddaughter's message to the terrorists this morning. Evacuate now. Word that the Israeli military is now telling over 1 million people in northern Gaza to get out. And new details on just how long Hamas has been plotting to attack Israel. Also heading home to fight. Hundreds of thousands of Israeli military reservists say sitting out of this war is not an option. Plus, the historic way one airline is getting these soldiers to the battlefield. And back here at home on Capitol Hill, it's back to square one.
I'm withdrawing my name as a candidate for Speaker designee.
White House Majority Leader Steve Scalise is bowing out in the race to elect a new House Speaker. The GOP and Congress in limbo. What are their options now? We'll tell you. It's Morning in America. And from our NewsNation headquarters in America's heartland, the bloody conflict involving Israel and Gaza, prompted by Hamas terrorists, continues. I'm Adrienne Bankert.
And I'm Nick Smith. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. The war now in its 7th day.
We have live team coverage starting in Tel Aviv. Families holding funerals for some of the 1,300 people killed. And Israeli troops continue to take over sections of the border with Gaza. Our Robert Sherman is there.
And in Iran, they can no longer access to $6 billion that was unfrozen as part of a prisoner swap to free 5 American citizens. Our Joe Khalil has that part of our coverage from D.C.
Plus, the nation's largest police force is on high alert. A lot of law enforcement agencies are on high alert around the country and around the world, preparing for any violence since a former Hamas leader called on all Muslims to have a day of jihad. Drake Clark is live in New York with details.
In just the past few minutes, the United States reaffirming its commitment to uphold democracy, standing with Israel in its fight against hate. In a news conference we brought to you live, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin warning Hamas the world is watching as Israeli leaders say they will never let anyone forget what Hamas has done, spilling the blood of the innocent.
And the clock is ticking on evacuations. Israel warning Palestinians in Gaza to leave and not look back, to head to the south of the Gaza Strip ahead of the anticipated assault, possibly a ground assault. That's what it's looking like. The United Nations and others around the world fear that this will have a disastrous outcome, a humanitarian crisis. Robert Sherman is live in Tel Aviv for us. Robert, there are Palestinians receiving leaflets that we've seen floating to the ground from overhead to get out within 24 hours.
Right, yeah, Israeli planes have been flying over the Gaza Strip, dropping these pamphlets to the ground. They're written in Arabic. The message is pretty straightforward. Leave immediately, move south, get out of Gaza City before the military strikes really hike up here over the coming few hours and the coming days as well. This is what the IDF had to say this morning about what's to come. Take a listen.
Out of an understanding that there are civilians here whom are not our enemy and we do not want to target them, we are asking them to evacuate so that we will be able to continue to strike military targets belonging to Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
So the United Nations says that 24-hour window that the Israeli forces have given is simply not enough. The World Health Organization says there are people in hospitals who are on life support who cannot be moved. But on the other hand, you have Hamas telling people that they should be staying in place and they should ignore what the IDF has to say and stay within their homes there as the IDF ramps up its military operations there. In the meantime, the IDF has hit 750 targets overnight here. We're seeing the airstrikes continue here. It's been very relentless ever since Saturday as well. Hamas claims that 13 hostages have been killed by these airstrikes, but that has not been verified by Israeli officials. And something else to keep on our radars here, we've been talking about American citizens trying to get out of Israel. The State Department says starting today, those citizens will be able to take charter flights out of Israel if they have not been able to book a passage on a commercial airline. They're hoping to get Americans out before the situation in the Middle East deteriorates. Adrienne and Nick.
Robert, thank you so much. As President Biden works to rescue the American hostages, the White House again freezing $6 billion in humanitarian aid to Iran, a key ally of Hamas. That money made available just weeks ago in a prisoner swap with the Islamic Republic. It's unclear yet if Iran played any direct role in planning the attacks on Israel. Joe Khalil has the latest on the Biden administration's response to the war in Israel. Joe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Nick. And we just heard a bit about this and about condemning Iran in that speech from Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. It was another show of unity between the U.S. and Israel in a series of shows of unity. You had President Biden giving the speech earlier this week. Yesterday, we saw Secretary Blinken right alongside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And today, Defense Secretary Austin right alongside his counterpart in Tel Aviv, making it crystal clear the United States is going to continue to stand right alongside Israel. He says that the U.S. is going to ensure Israel has everything it needs to prosecute, his word here, prosecute the war against Hamas. And he said, in times like these, sometimes the best thing that a friend can do is stand right alongside and show up. And that's certainly what he says the United States is doing right now. Let's talk about hardware. He says that the U.S. is going to be augmenting aircraft squadrons in the Middle East. He says the Department of Defense stands ready to add additional assets to what's already in the Mediterranean, our most advanced aircraft carrier and our air strike group. And he says the U.S. is going to be there to provide more defensive infrastructure for the Iron Dome. There was one part that also stood out to us, and it was the only point really where Defense Secretary Austin sort of urged some measure of caution as Israel prosecutes this war in Gaza, making clear that Hamas is the target. He compared Hamas to ISIS, but not Palestinian civilians. And here's how he laid that out.
We will continue to coordinate closely with Israel to help secure the release of the innocent men, women, and children in the clutches of Hamas, including American citizens. Terrorists like Hamas deliberately target civilians, but democracies don't. This is a time for resolve and not revenge, for purpose and not panic, and for security and not surrender.
So I think isolating Hamas there, again, was key in that speech there from both Defense Secretary Austin and his Israeli counterpart. And I want to just point out one more thing, that when they compare Hamas to ISIS, that is something that we heard Prime Minister Netanyahu say needs to happen. He wanted the international community not to look upon Hamas, especially after these brutal attacks, as some political actor, but to reject them outright just as it did ISIS. And when you continue to hear somebody like the Defense Secretary here from the United States make that comparison, I think that is exactly what the Israelis and their government and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu want to hear from the U.S. as well. Nick and Adrienne.
And language, Joe, that you and I both know is directed at an American audience. Joe Khalil, thank you so much.
Yeah.
For more, let's welcome retired Army Brigadier General Mark Kimmett. Brigadier General Kimmett is joining us now to talk about the not only the press conference, but the latest situation on the ground. General, good morning.
Good morning.
We're already seeing some pretty dire images coming out of Gaza, which has been cut off from food, electricity, running water in just the recent days. We're now in day 7. Just how much more brutal will things get, or more likely when Israel begins a ground invasion?
Well, certainly things are going to get worse. You're going to see more buildings knocked down, more infrastructure cut out. It could very well be that those civilians that choose not to leave Gaza City could be tied up inside this war as well. So sadly, I think we're not only going to see combat of Hamas versus Israeli soldiers, but there will be collateral damage among civilians as well.
General Kimmett, we know that Israel has reactivated more than 300,000 of their reservists. Give us some context here. How will fighting in Gaza compare to what American troops experienced during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan? And now that they have these extra men and women in uniform ready to fight for Israel, how will they be used in this offensive?
Well, the second question first. The 300,000 reservists will basically augment the other outside borders, such as up in the north and down in the south, relieving those active duty troops to participate in the attack into Gaza. With regards to how it compares to former U.S. battles, the only one I can compare it to would be the first and second battles of Fallujah in 2003 and 2004. That's where we had a situation where American troops were going door to door, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood, trying to root out the terrorists there. I think you're going to see the same thing in Gaza City, multiplied tenfold simply because of the size of the city.
One of the questions we had, too, we've gotten a chance now to see satellite images where it looks like Hamas was practicing in plain sight. They posted mock attacks on social media. How does Gaza's notorious tunnel system, known as the Hamas Metro, complicate things as Israeli soldiers move in to actually try to not only free hostages, but to also take out the enemy?
It's extraordinarily tough. It's important for your viewers to understand that Israel has been attacking the tunnel system for more than 2 decades. That is the way that Hamas gets in weapons, gets in electronic capabilities for their precision-guided weapons. They get in food and other necessary warfighting equipment that way. The very fact that the Israelis do not know or did not know where these tunnels were before makes this extremely complicated. Tunnels are great for cover, concealment, the ability to reposition forces, and they're also a great place to put the hostages in. So this is going to be very, very tough fighting. As most of your viewers remember, in Vietnam, they had the tunnel rats that we used to send down into the Vietnamese tunnels. This is, again, that same problem multiplied many times over.
General Kimmett, I'm running out of time, but I have to ask you this last question. The minute we talk about those tunnels, immediately it comes to mind the close quarters. How do you minimize collateral damage in such close fighting quarters?
You try to do exactly as Israelis have done, which is tell the civilians to leave. That's the only way you can guarantee their safety in this kind of fighting.
Retired Army General, Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, I want to thank you again for joining us this morning. I know that we will be tapping into you again as this continues to escalate. Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning.
So the war obviously putting a lot of people on high alert throughout the world. Copycats do happen whenever there is a terror attack, not at the level that Israel has seen, but certainly this is a concern. The former head of Hamas calling for a, quote, global day of jihad. That terror group, actually that gentleman, I don't even want to call him a gentleman, that guy calling for Muslims to take to the streets to show their anger over the events unfolding in the Gaza Strip. Dre Clark is live in New York, where the NYPD is taking the threat very seriously. Dre, there have been confusing messages about exactly what jihad means. Can you just break that down ahead of your reporting here for Americans who are saying, does this mean that there are bloodbaths expected in major cities? Does this just mean protests and resistance?
I think the common association when you hear the word jihad, most Americans think that's a call for violence. And that's why so many communities and police departments are concerned. If you were to ask a Muslim or a member of the Islamic community, they may something different. But in general, when you hear the word jihad, it makes people very uncomfortable here in the United States. And that's also why the FBI is telling everyone to please be hyper vigilant. This as police departments all across the country are now beefing up their patrols. Here in New York City, the mayor and police commissioner says right now there are no known credible threats being made against the city. However, the police department, the NYPD, is planning to increase its visibility significantly. Again, this is a response to that former Hamas leader calling for this global day of general mobilization or rage, and yes, even jihad. And again, when people hear that word, they think it means potential violence.
America on alert. In New York City, the NYPD has canceled vacations and ordered all police officers to show up for work in uniform. The nation's largest police force raising its visibility and preparing for a weekend of protests and potential violence.
We have directed the NYPD to surge additional resources to schools, houses of worship to ensure that they are safe.
Counterterrorism officers and members of the Critical Response Command will be heavily armed and ready to go. The NYPD can also monitor live cameras positioned throughout the city from its Joint Operations Center. The shift in urgency is a response to former Hamas leader Khaled Mashal, who has called for a day of general mobilization worldwide. He calls the Israeli war response in Gaza genocide, saying, quote, "Deliver a message through the squares and the streets, a message of anger that we are with Palestine." Also saying, this is the moment the Islamic nation must join the battle. We should fight with them. Pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian groups have been demonstrating and protesting all week across the country. And at one point, the two sides faced off in Times Square. There was a lot of yelling and finger-pointing, but no acts of violence. The NYPD standing in the middle.
We want everyone to remain calm. We have this under control.
Police departments in major cities across the country are following the NYPD's lead and beefing up their patrols. Meanwhile, hate crimes against Jews and Palestinians here in the U.S. are becoming a concern. The NYPD is investigating 3 alleged attacks in Brooklyn and Queens that may have been motivated by hate.
Here in New York, neither our city nor our state will tolerate any form of bigotry, whether it be anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any other kind of hate or discrimination.
At Columbia University, which is not too far from where we are here in Times Square, they actually shut down the campus to the public yesterday after an Israeli student was attacked with a stick. And Adrienne, you asked me that question about jihad. I went ahead and Googled it and just looked up a definition here, and it literally says a struggle or fight against enemies of Islam. Again, the explanations vary, but in general, when people hear that word jihad, they believe that the Muslim community, these Muslim extremists, are about to take up arms and try and attack the American community.
It's certainly a loaded term. Thank you very much, Dre.
Well, still ahead on Morning in America, a stunning turn of events in the race for Speaker of the House. Steve Scalise withdrawing his name just a day after the GOP nominated him. The reason why and who's next in line.
And cleaning up in the Sunshine State following a series of back-to-back tornadoes. We'll have more news for all America just ahead.
CUOMO live in Israel all this week on NewsNation.
With this balsam hill tree, create your own twinkly light show and enjoy a stunningly realistic tree designed to make setup simple. Enjoy free shipping with balsamhill.com.
Internet without trackers, without malware-ridden files. Zen. Be more cyber zen. Get NordVPN.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions, like what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide, with the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed, no finger sticks needed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. The #1 doctor-prescribed CGM, Freestyle Libre 2. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I was getting older. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
I've never been healthier.
Shingles doesn't care, but Shingrix protects. Proven over 90% effective. Shingrix is a vaccine used to prevent shingles in adults 50 years and older. Shingrix does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients or to a previous dose. An increased risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome was observed after getting Shingrix. Fainting can also happen. The most common side effects are pain, redness and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, tiredness, headache, shivering, fever, and upset stomach. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Shingrix today.
Had enough? No. Arthritis. Here. Aspirin arthritis.
Huh. Full prescription strength. Reduces inflammation.
Thank the gods. Don't thank them too soon.
Kick pain in the Aspirin.
The past few years have proven that unexpected events can strike at any time. In times of stress, the mind and body can fail. That's why you need Nutrient Survival. Our delicious, chef-made recipes are packed with 6 times more nutrients than other pantry food and patented with the same level of elite nutrition that's required by Special Ops forces to help you stay strong, alert, and satisfied when you need it most. Hearty entrees, delicious snacks, strength-building shakes with 40 essential nutrients, and they last up to 25 years guaranteed. This isn't empty calorie food. This is food that nourishes your body and powers your mind. So don't stock up on just any old food. Stock up on Nutrient Survival. Fast, easy, and ready in minutes, Nutrient Survival helps keep your mind and body strong, so you're always prepared to protect those you love. Take action. Try Nutrient Survival today. Order now and get 15% off. Plus, get our best-selling variety sampler absolutely free. And get free shipping. Supplies won't last, so don't wait. Order now.
At Mountain Bow, we care about every detail. Every stitch is sewn with unwavering dedication. Every pair, a masterpiece of artistry and precision. Mountain Bow jeans are made with dynamic stretch for ultimate flexibility and a comfortable fit. And they're handcrafted in a family-owned facility that's been perfecting the art of denim for over 40 years. Flexible, comfortable, the perfect pair of jeans. Find your pair at mountainbow.com.
This House of Representatives needs a speaker, and we need to open up the House again. And I'm going to continue to push as hard as we can to make that happen, but I withdraw my name.
All right. That moment on Capitol Hill seen around the country. Steve Scalise dropping out of the speaker's race just a day after the GOP nominated him. He was not able to win over about a dozen GOP holdouts. NewsNation political editor Chris Steyerwalt here with us this morning. Chris, there are some saying the expectation was Republicans would move quickly to unite because of the crisis overseas. But I'll ask you, isn't much of what we see in terms of aid for Israel already approved and something the president actually has a final say over, so that shouldn't even be brought into the discussion?
Well, I guess you could look at it that way, but the House is running on, they have about a month. So it's true that today it doesn't really matter, but they're on a continuing resolution that expires in the middle of November. And you can't make laws, you can't do anything until the House can do its business. So I guess it's true that today it doesn't really matter, but the clock is narrow and getting narrower.
Well, and again, it's because of our budget issue. It's because of a lack of a spending plan rather than international concerns that should be providing more urgency. Do you think this signals that we will pass another continuing resolution in November? Because there is, I mean, it's another 11th hour situation for the GOP.
Well, there's aid for Ukraine that has not been approved, and they can't do that. And there is obviously going to be a request for supplemental aid for Israel. So both of those things will have to go through the House at some point. So at the very beginning, right now, you're right, the president has plenty of authority and he can do all of that stuff. But to appropriate additional funds, the House will eventually have to get back to business.
As heartbreaking as both of those situations are for a lot of people, Americans are actually concerned about domestic issues as well. What is of the biggest argument for urgency, particularly when it comes to an emergency for American citizens?
Well, again, I think right now it's those foreign policy concerns. You have a month where there's a continuing resolution running and a government shutdown, a partial government shutdown that hit in middle November would be bad, especially with the world increasingly concerned about what's going to happen to gas prices, energy prices, and the world economy if Iran is drawn into a conflict like this, or what can happen in the broader Middle East. So there are economic concerns, all of those things.
Scalise is a survivor. Let's get back to him. He lived through that horrible shooting in 2017 at the congressional baseball game practice. He's receiving treatment for blood cancer, but not able to rally enough support. What was the major concern for why he could not become the next Speaker of the House?
So there is a deeply divided Republican conference. I don't think this was very much about Steve Scalise. I think this was a lot about Donald Trump. There's a big part of the conference that wants the House to be focused on making things as hard on Joe Biden as possible, right? They want what Jim Jordan is promising, which is a lot of focus on Hunter Biden. Moving forward, he has not publicly said this, but his track record would point to this, that he would be eager to move forward with impeachment proceedings and really weaponize the House to go after Joe Biden to put him in as weak a position as possible, and probably to run interference for Donald Trump in his criminal cases. So you have one part of the House that really wants to line up behind Donald Trump. That's the candidate that Donald Trump has endorsed. Then you have the rest of the House, the majority of the House Republicans, some of whom are in difficult districts, some of whom are facing challenging reelection efforts, some of whom want to be seen as they can govern, they can lead, they can do the work. And those two groups are very much at odds. Both, it's not so much ideological, it's tactical. What is going to be the focus of the House between now and next fall? Which way are they going to take it? And I don't think they have an answer yet.
You know, it's wearying, I'm sure, for lawmakers on Capitol Hill. It's wearying for the American people. But we might remind our viewers that this is historic. We haven't seen this happen really ever, but in over a century, we haven't seen what we saw happen to Kevin McCarthy. Does this make us appear weak to Americans and on a global stage?
Well, I think it makes us look incompetent. I don't know if it makes America seem weak. The USS Gerald R. Ford would probably indicate to folks that we're in a pretty good position militarily. But I think it makes us look incompetent. We have low confidence among Americans in their government. We have low confidence in the presidency, in the president, in the Congress. This is a serious problem for Americans' confidence in their government. And when you have one party that is just at war with itself, figuratively at war with itself, and would rather punish their enemies inside the party than they would govern, that reinforces the concerns that lots of Americans have.
Yeah, they need to figure out a way to all get along. Chris Steyerwalt, thank you.
Well, Adrienne, I guess there's solace in the fact that we look incompetent as opposed to weak. So, and Lloyd Austin did say, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we'll continue to follow that as well. Well, coming up this morning, the war in Israel is entering a critical new stage. Just ahead, we'll ask an Israel Defense Forces spokesperson about the warning and a deadline for millions of people in Gaza to evacuate now.
This is our nation and this is our country, and it's so, so, so hard to not play a role in that.
These young people who are coming out from everywhere. I mean, they're coming by the thousands back to Israel, reservists returning to fight on the front lines. How Israel's military is getting them home, especially in light of all of the restrictions to travel there, so they can defend their nation.
My mom's Alzheimer's never changed how much we love her, but it did change her. She developed agitation that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. She started yelling, pacing around, kept repeating the same questions. She got agitated often, so we asked her doctor for help.
Rexulti is the only FDA-approved medication proven to reduce agitation symptoms that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Rexulti can cause serious side effects. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Report fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, which can be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death. Weight gain, increased cholesterol, low white blood cells, unusual urges, dizziness on standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing, or sleepiness may occur. Take action for your loved one. Ask their doctor about Rexulti.
Tommy John has been dedicated to elevating underwear for over a decade. Now, we're proud to reveal our most premium men's underwear yet. This is Apollo. All new, ultra breathable, rigorously tested for durability, and enhanced with exclusive dry release tech. We've upgraded the softness and the level of comfort, so don't be surprised if your confidence is upgraded too. Experience high-end for your rear end at TommyJohn.com and get 20% off your first order.
This isn't Charmin. No wonder I don't feel as clean.
Hurry up, Dad.
I'm trying. This cheap stuff is too thin.
Here's Charmin Ultra Strong.
Ah, my bottom's been saved.
With its diamond weave texture, Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better with fewer sheets and less effort.
What's everybody waiting for? This?
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
And for a shower fresh clean feeling, try Charmin flushable wipes.
If your vehicle isn't under warranty, it's almost like a ticking time bomb. Sooner or later, it's gonna break down, and you'll be stuck with a repair bill that could blow up your budget. unless you have an auto protection plan from Everything Breaks. Our protection plans cover the expensive items that your auto insurance doesn't, like engine repairs, transmission, AC, computer systems, and more. Plus, our plans include 24/7 roadside assistance, free towing, free trip interruption, and free rental cars. Plans from other providers can cost between $100 to $200 per month. But with Everything Breaks, you can get the critical coverage that you need with plans starting at less than $1 a day. And if you call right now, your rates will be locked in, guaranteed. If your vehicle is out of warranty, call us now to get protected before it breaks down.
Call 1-800-374-4456, 1-800-374-4456.
This half hour, hundreds of thousands of military reservists are rushing back to Israel to fight. What one airline is doing to get them all home that hasn't been done since the 1980s.
And business executives and CEOs are demanding accountability for the Harvard students who signed a letter blaming Israel for the attack, what they're asking the university to do.
Legendary gymnast Mary Lou Retton is fighting for her life in the ICU. We'll have an update on the rare form of pneumonia that she's contracted and why her family is asking for donations. We have a look right now at other stories in the headlines today.
Yeah, a couple of things I think that people will be talking about around the breakfast table. The trial of a Denver area police officer involved in the death of Elijah McClain is scheduled to begin this morning. On Thursday, one of the three officers was convicted while another was acquitted. McClain died in 2019. He was put in a neck hold, pinned to the ground, and given an overdose of the sedative ketamine by paramedics. Jurors found Officer Randy Rodima guilty of criminally negligent homicide and third-degree assault. Two paramedics go to trial later this year. And federal prosecutors filed new charges against New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. The indictment claims the Democrat conspired with his wife and a New Jersey businessman to act as an agent of Egypt. Federal prosecutors are looking to seize his home, a car, and nearly $500,000 in cash and gold bars that were stored in his jacket. Menendez releasing a statement saying he has been loyal to only one country, the United States of America. And cleanup begins in Florida. Take a look at this. You're looking at video of the after effects of multiple tornadoes that hit the area of Tampa. Debris thrown about, cars smashed, and large trees knocked down. All of this on Thursday. You can see here a large water spout near Clearwater moving onshore, causing transformers to simply explode, knocking out power. Now, the National Weather Service saying at least 4 twisters touched down across Florida, the strongest, an EF2 with winds of 115 miles per hour in Palm Coast. Thankfully, there were no reports of injury.
This will be his last Knicksford football game, if he can get it off. For the end zone, tipped, and he caught it. Touchdown! Holy Toledo. Stephon Johnson does it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephon Johnson, definitely the hero of the day. Talk about a prayer being answered. After giving up a touchdown with 12 seconds left, the Houston Cougars pulled out an improbable win over West Virginia on Thursday night on a 49-yard Hail Mary as the clock hit 0. The two teams combined for 42 points in the fourth quarter alone.
And our thoughts are with all who have been impacted by these tragic events. We ask you to please join us as we observe a moment of silence in honor of all who lost their lives and pray for peace.
Example of how. And that was even sound from the Israeli national anthem. In the midst of the war in Israel, sports continue to provide a minor respite, at least for a dozen or so players and coaches from Maccabi Ranah, a basketball team based just north of Tel Aviv. They took to the court last night in Brooklyn for an exhibition game against the Nets. After a moment of silence, a rendition of the Israeli national anthem was sung. The game then went on as scheduled, with the Nets winning 135-103. Brooklyn head coach Jacques Vaughn talked after the game about what it meant to play an Israeli side with the war front and center.
I think the biggest thing is this game provides hope that there are better times for our world ahead. I talked about each night, man, I go to bed and pray for peace. And this game, you read some of the stories, you hear some of the things. This game provides hope that there are better days ahead.
Brooklyn was the first stop on their U.S. tour, which the team says they will continue to do. That team has games in Cleveland and Minneapolis next week.
This is the ISIS of Gaza, and as the secretary said, they took evil to another level. That's first issue. Second, Israel never and ever will not shoot civilians in purpose. Therefore, we are asking all the civilians in Gaza City to go south of Gaza. And the reason is that because we don't want to harm them. The camouflage of the terrorist is the civil population.
That was a strong message there from Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant alongside Secretary of Defense General Lloyd Austin at a joint press conference that they had just moments ago. Now, Gallant again warning citizens in northern Gaza to evacuate prior to a planned ground offensive that's scheduled to happen later today.
Israel spent part of the day dropping leaflets on cities and towns in the north of the Gaza Strip, telling the entire population, over 1 million people, to relocate to the southern part of Gaza within the next 24 hours. That clock already ticking down. Hamas calling that warning propaganda, urging people to stay inside their homes. And as we go live right now to pictures from the capital of Yemen, what you're seeing are wide protests of tens of thousands of people. These are people who are waving the Palestinian flag in solidarity with the Palestinians, angered over the Israeli missile strikes in Gaza. Now, what we will tell you is that the fact that Hamas, if those reports are true, is telling the Palestinian people not to leave their homes. First of all, it's highly likely that they are endeavoring to tactically make it appear as though Israel is even more cruel, allowing for citizens to die. Just a reminder, this entire conflict began when Hamas, a verified terrorist organization, attacked Israel's civilians. There was no battle going on between soldiers and militants. This was an all-out war against families, grandparents, babies, couples burned alive in their homes in front of their children. But what you're watching on this Friday, following morning prayers, a tradition within the Muslim faith, is a widespread call to action. Some are calling it a day of jihad. Today, not just in the Middle East, but all around the world, reports are that that call came from a former member of Hamas himself. Now, jihad, depending upon who you speak to, is a day of struggle. It's a day of fighting. It's a day to go against, resist anyone who is an infidel, someone who is not Muslim. It's a loaded term that can mean many different things to many different people. But right now, this kind of a protest is not just happening in Yemen. It's happening in Jordan. It's happening in places all around the world. If you go to Europe, they have now actually banned pro-Palestinian protests in France as a result of that perhaps inciting violence. The same thing done in Berlin, Germany. But we're expecting protests, likely not the size of this one in Yemen, happening here today, and law enforcement is on high alert.
And because of the size of the Palestinian community in places like outside of Detroit, Michigan, I'm sure that we will see images later today. Hopefully, once again, people peacefully demonstrating and nothing escalating to violence.
Again, people in Yemen, the capital of Sana'a, waving the Palestinian flag. The Israeli airline El Al gearing up to fly on the Jewish Sabbath for the first time in more than 40 years.
Yeah, now the airline said that they did receive permission from Jewish leaders to do so, saying the need to preserve life is more important than religious laws. They plan to operate 4 flights, 1 from New York, 2 from Bangkok, and 1 from Madrid. Stephanie Haynes joins us live. Stephanie, these reservists are also desperate to get back to actually help.
Nick, they absolutely are, and it cannot be understated how important, how big a deal this is. The airline got permission from the rabbis to do this, and it's in part because it's just been so difficult for people to get back to Israel. Plenty of airlines have canceled flights, including American Airlines, which is based here right behind me. Flights canceled to Israel at least through December 4th, and so reservists or anyone who wants to help are really eager to take advantage of these chartered flights. For the first time since 1982, Israel's El Al Airlines will fly on Saturday, the Jewish Sabbath, to bring home reservists, security forces, rescue teams, and anyone who wants to help, like Kelly Oates, who have dropped everything to get back to Israel.
And what made me decide to return was really the feeling that, you know, this is our nation and this is our country, and it's so hard to not play a role in that. The feeling of duty.
More than 360,000 reservists have been called up to fight against Hamas. That's the terrorist group responsible for the carnage in Israel last weekend.
It's a different level. This time we faced brutality that we've never seen before. Brutality that we probably last saw during the Holocaust.
El Al says the flights are free for soldiers, paid for by the airline and big American financial institutions. Rabbis gave the airline special permission to fly on the holy day because the preservation of life takes precedence at this moment. And while she is grateful for the chance to be with her people, Kelly Oates knows the road ahead will be far from easy.
I would really like to show the world the true core of the IDF, which is really the Israeli Defense Forces. You know, we have been attacked, brutally attacked, and it has been a traumatic time for all of us. But something that we know how to do and we have to do is to defend ourselves.
Just tremendous bravery there from Kelly and plenty of other reservists. Kelly is already back in Israel. She has dual citizenship in South Africa and Israel. She's supposed to get married to a Brazilian national soon. Her family is very supportive of her work to serve her country right now. Nick.
Stephanie Haynes live for us this morning. Stephanie, thank you so much.
More to come on Morning in America. Some CEOs, they're coming forward after Harvard students signed a letter. They blame Israel for the attack by Hamas on civilians. Up next, what those CEOs are asking, actually demanding the university do.
JP Morgan Wealth Management knows it's easy to get lost in investment research. Get help with JP Morgan Personal Advisors.
Hey, David, ready to get started?
Work with advisors who create a plan with you and help you find the right investments.
So great getting to know you. Let's take a look at your new investment plan.
Okay, great.
This should have you moving in the right direction.
Thanks, Jen.
Get ongoing advice and manage your investments in the Chase mobile app.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers for up to half the price.
That's amazing.
And great customer service based here in America.
That's amazing.
And no hidden fees, no contracts, and free activation.
That's
Hello? Barbara?
Sorry, I was muted. That's amazing.
I know, right?
Can you see that?
My mental health was much better, but I struggled with uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia. TD can be caused by some mental health meds.
And it's unlikely to improve without treatment. I felt like my movements were in the spotlight.
#1 prescribed Ingrezza is the only TD treatment for adults that's always one pill once daily. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TD movements in 7 out of 10 people. People taking Ingrezza can stay on most mental health meds. Ingrezza can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, behaviors, feelings, or have thoughts of suicide. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including angioedema, potential heart rhythm problems, and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
It's nice. People focus more on me.
Ask your doctor about #1 prescribed once daily Ingrezza.
You didn't live this strong, this long, to get put on the shelf like a porcelain doll. If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, you can build new bone with Evenity. Ask your doctor if you could do more than just slowing down bone loss with Evenity. Want stronger bones? Then build new bone. Evenity can help in just 12 months. Evenity is proven to reduce spine fracture risk by 73%.
Evenity can increase risk of heart attack, stroke, or death from a cardiovascular problem. Do not take Evenity if you have low blood calcium or are allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions and low blood calcium have occurred. Tell your doctor about jawbone problems, as they have been reported with Evenity, or about pain in your hip, groin, or thigh, as unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred.
Don't let a break put you on a shelf. Talk to your doctor about building new bone with Evenity.
Welcome back. Breaking now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announcing he will visit Israel this weekend. He is the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in the U.S. Mr. Schumer says he will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's president. Multiple business executives and CEOs are asking Harvard University to reveal the names of the students who signed a letter blaming Israel for the attack by Hamas. David Duell, CEO of the Easy Health, told Dan Abrams that companies have a right to know what kind of people they could be hiring.
You are doing this for what reason and how? Meaning, when I say how, meaning, are you actively now trying to assess who these people are just to make sure you don't hire them?
Well, let me start with some history, I think, to share some context. My family fled their homeland of Iran over, for 2,000 years. They were Jews and they had to leave during the revolution. I was not raised to take my freedoms for granted, and I'm a student of history and know how tenuous our security and safety could be. And the history of the Jewish people and my parents' journey shows me that clearly. So I felt the need to speak up and take action, even if it came at a personal or financial price. However, I knew that the price of inaction and silence could be greater. And just looking back at history, at the turn of the 20th century, 40% of university faculty and students in Vienna were Jews, and that ultimately went to zero. I feel that the campus situation in America could take that path as well. And I want to make sure that if there's anything I could do to at least try to curb that effect, and we've already seen that Jewish admissions has already been dwindling over the years at a lot of these elite academic institutions because the lack of safety felt on campus across the Ivy Leagues and even more broadly. Today I was at UCLA and people were chanting "River to the Sea," calling for genocide of the Jewish people. So my view is that everyone has a right to be forgiven and not be judged by the worst decisions if they want to renounce. Because I could imagine that some people did get caught up into this, unfairly. But ultimately, if they want to continue calling for the genocide of the Jewish people, then their employers, their friends, and their neighbors should have a right to know that they harbor these beliefs.
And are you in the process still of trying to get the names of these folks?
There are other organizations already dedicated to that activity and aggregating names and lists of folks across the country. That's not something I'm personally, actively participating in. I believe that there's a bunch of lists already being circulated and shared across different online forums, and those will make their way into the hands of different people, and they'll do what they want with those lists.
That is definitely one we will keep an eye on. Still ahead this morning, legendary gymnast Mary Lou Retton continues fighting a rare form of pneumonia in the ICU. An update on her health and her family's call for help.
Sunday, legendary UFO journalist George Knapp unlocks his archives to senior correspondent Brian Enton, revealing secrets he's hidden for decades.
This is big stuff.
The UFO Reporter, The George Knapp Files, Sunday, only on NewsNation.
How do I do it all? With a little help. And to support my family's immune health, I choose Airborne. It has an unbeatable amount of vitamin C, plus a unique blend of immune-focused ingredients to turn up our immune support. Airborne, turn up your immune support.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
Don't mind me. I'm just the flu.
I'm quite harmless, really. And when people ask, but aren't you linked to dangerous flu complications like pneumonia, heart attack, and hospitalizations? I just say, but I'm just the flu.
It's him.
Who? I'm just the flu.
Fight the flu with higher dose flu vaccines from Sanofi. They're proven to provide better flu protection than standard dose flu shots in older adults. They've even been shown to better protect against flu-related complications.
Don't get Fluzone high-dose quadrivalent if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its components, including egg products, or after previous dose of flu vaccine. Don't get Flublok quadrivalent if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its components. Tell your healthcare professional if you've had severe muscle weakness after a flu shot. People with weakened immune systems may have a lower vaccine response.
Demand more from your flu shot. To get a Sanofi vaccine, make sure to ask for it by name. Schedule your Sanofi flu shot, available at these preferred national pharmacies.
This is a special alert.
Israel is under attack, and Israel's enemies seek our destruction. The people of Israel need immediate help.
Rockets have us squarely in the crosshairs. Our people are targets in their own homes. Many have lost everything and fear for their lives.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has launched an urgent response to rescue those affected by this violent attack.
Our teams are on the ground across Israel delivering life-saving aid. Your urgently needed gift of only $45 will help rush food, water, medicine, and emergency supplies for Jewish families that have nowhere to turn.
Time is literally running out. What we need you to do is to act now.
Please call 1-800-946-7288. Scan or go online now.
ACC football on the CW continues when number 14 Louisville hopes to stay undefeated against Pitt. Number 14 Louisville versus Pitt this Saturday at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific on the CW.
If your vehicle isn't under warranty, it's almost like a ticking time bomb. Sooner or later, it's going to break down, and you'll be stuck with a repair bill that could blow up your budget. Unless you have an auto protection plan from Everything Breaks. Our protection plans cover the expensive items that your auto insurance doesn't, like engine repairs, transmission, AC, computer systems, and more. Plus, our plans include 24/7 roadside assistance, free towing, free trip interruption, and free rental cars. Plans from other providers can cost between $100 to $200 per month. But with Everything Breaks, you can get the critical coverage that you need with plans starting at less than $1 a day. And if you call right now, your rates will be locked in, guaranteed. If your vehicle is out of warranty, call us now to get protected before it breaks down.
Call 1-800-374-4456, 1-800-374-4456.
This morning, donations continue to pour in for the most decorated U.S. gymnast, Mary Lou Retton. She's been fighting for her life for more than a week.
Yeah, the U.S. Olympic legend does not have health insurance, so her children are crowdfunding for help. And Kelsey's here to tell us more about it. Kelsey, good morning.
I mean, you guys, I got to just say, this is just really a testament that America still loves her. I mean, reading some of those posts, just the love, the outpouring of support. They want to see her get through this time. And now they've raised nearly $400,000. 7,100 people they have donated. And that $50,000 goal, they made that in just a couple of hours.
Fans and loved ones leaving money donations with posts that read, "You are an American hero, and hang in there, Mary Lou." One fan and furniture businessman who is known as Mattress Mac even donated a whopping $50,000. He told reporters that he and his wife were fans of Retton and watched her during her career. They are praying and hoping she recovers. Retton's daughter, McKenna Kelly, sharing the news on Tuesday that her mother is sick and their family is in need of help with her medical expenses. The Spot Fund post reading, "She is not able to breathe on her own. She's been in the ICU for over a week now. Out of respect for her and her privacy, I will not disclose all details. However, I will disclose that she is not insured." I reached out to a doctor and medical expert who says the nearly $400,000 already raised is probably not enough money to fully cover Retton's medical expenses thus far, as treatment in the ICU can be very expensive. But she also told us more about what rare pneumonia is and what it means. Take a listen.
It sounds like it's probably a bilateral pneumonia, which means a pneumonia that involves both lungs.
and has progressed to the point that a significant amount of her lung tissue is involved. And so she's no longer able to oxygenate the blood properly. And when you get to that point, then you have to have assistance with breathing and oxygenating.
Friends and teammates sharing their well wishes on social media. Kathy Johnson-Clark posting this picture of the two hugging at the 1984 Olympics, with a post reading in part, "Holding you tightly in my thoughts and prayers as I have many times." And five-time gold medalist and competitor Nadia Comaneci expressing sympathy on X, reading, "Please get better, my very dear friend."
So much love and support for Mary Lou Retton. Now, her children are saying, hey, if you cannot donate money, please send prayers. They are just hoping that their mother makes it through this time.
It's sad to think that one of the greatest athletes that America has seen doesn't have health insurance. And she's in her 50s. She's a young woman.
This is a common American problem.
Yeah, but of all people, it's sad.
It's sad.
It's tragic that she wasn't taken care of, that nobody said, listen, just get some kind of coverage, because taking care of her body was something that she did all in her youth.
All in her youth, but once again, we see the love and support from the community pour out. Mattress Mac, this guy is everywhere, and I just love that he continues to give. Like, he is truly, you've met him, though, before. You've worked with him before.
I've interviewed him multiple times over the years, and his generosity is just, it's stunning.
I still see that smile on the Wheaties box, and like everyone across the country and here in NewsNation, we wish for her to have a speedy and healthy
champion of a
recovery.
woman. I mean, you guys, I say it time and time again, to do those spins and then to land that spot landing. I mean, it is hard.
I spin like that. I usually just land face first, you know.
Well, Kelsey,
we're
knows
praying
she's
for
a
her.
junior Olympian herself. We'll have more of the breaking news coverage we've been following from around the world. Israel at war. Another live look at Yemenis demonstrating in solidarity with the people in Gaza. We're expecting to see a number of different protests from all around the world. Pro-Palestinian protests with a call to Muslims. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of support for the Jewish people. More news for All America when we come back.
Hi, I'm Alejandro, and I started Mod & Bow to make the world's most comfortable, best-fitting pair of jeans. My family started making denim back in 1982, and today we make Mod & Bow jeans in that very same facility I visited growing up. Our signature Mod & Bow jeans have dynamic stretch to provide flexibility and a comfortable fit, and we handcraft every pair with the care and quality you can only get from a true family business. At Mod & Bow, you might say denim runs in our genes.